What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11, taking a look at some GPP bets for tonight's 8-game slate. Quick note here, Kansas City and Minnesota looks to be taken off the board, postponement threat up in about 90%. So I won't be talking about guys from that game. Looking at catcher here, I like the Dodgers bats tonight against Eflin, who's allowed a 368 WOBA going back to last season to lefties. Home run issues, doesn't strike out a ton of bats. Mike Grandolph, he's in the lineup. Is probably going to be hitting around fifth. A good spot for him to drive in some runs tonight. Ballpark, a little bit of a downgrade at night, but looks to be a little bit warmer, so obviously that helps things out. As far as other guys go, I mean, Brian McCann, Evan Gattis, I'm both intrigued with against Triggs. Triggs is another guy where, I can definitely see the potential for him going forward, just probably not tonight against Houston. McCann in that short porch there in Minute Maid, Gattis as well. I do like those bats quite a bit. I think both of them will come kind of cut into each other's ownership a little bit. I think Gattis is probably your more GPP play than McCann is. As far as other guys go, I mean, Jet Bandy, Manny Pina are two guys that you can take a look at depending on who's in the lineup. Bandy's been absolutely clubbing the ball this season. And you go back to last year, I mean, over a 200 ISO against Southpaws in that ballpark, likely going to be hitting sixth or fifth, just depending on what they do with that lineup. But going to be talking more bats here for the Brewers as we go on. So definitely looking to go that way with those names. Brewers guys are on the cheaper side as well. If you want to get, cheaper, Stephen Vogt is a guy you can take a look at, struggling a little bit to start the season, but Musgrove is certainly a guy you can fire up against. He doesn't quite look right, so I don't mind going that route. He's obviously going to draw sub 10% ownership with how he's playing the season. First base tonight, Paul Goldschmidt. It was a rough night for the Diamondbacks, but this one we get fly ball pitcher Tyler Anderson, who's really struggling to start the season. Goldie, obviously known for his ability to hit lefties, 416 WOBA going back to last year, 209 ISO. So definitely going to be going that way. Goldschmidt, obviously a top pay-up option if you want to spin off. Obviously Freddie Freeman, I think, is similar upside in that ballpark. A guy who's absolutely been on fire. 279 ISO against righties going back to last year. And against Nelson, who's blow-up prone. Struggled against both sides of the plate last season. He's pitched okay to start the year, but not a guy that I'm buying. So I do like Freeman's kind of your first spin-off of a Goldschmidt, which those guys should still be pretty popular. As far as going down on the list, not anything I'm particularly thrilled with at first base. Definitely those two guys are going to be drawing my interest quite a bit. Albert Pujols, obviously a good night last night, but facing Darvish tonight kind of sucks. Brandon Belt in a bad ballpark, but against Chastain, I could see him doing pretty well. Belt 369 WOBA go off righties going back to last year. Lucas Chastain not the best against left-handers. 335 WOBA allowed in that span. Might take a look at some other guys. Ryan Healy's an intriguing option. I don't mind the A's bats tonight against Musgrove. Vegas isn't loving them, but I like him in that ballpark there. Some potential. Will Myers, really tough ballpark, but this dude hits half of his games in a tough ballpark. Would be an intriguing option against Kane if you're building multiple lines to get some exposure. But for the most part, I think Goldschmidt, Freeman, Thames is still going to be an option just tonight with how hot he's been. But lefty-lefty matchup, Garcia a little bit tougher on lefties. I don't know how much exposure I'll be having to him. So I think those three guys are pretty much four guys I'm going to be looking at first base. Second base, Jonathan Villar. Guy like tonight, 388 WOBA against lefties. Since last year, 235 ISO. You look at Garcia, not missing a lot of bats this year. 373 WOBA to right-handers going back to last year, 1.46 home runs per 9. Other bats, Ador's an intriguing option. Jesse Chavez is a guy I don't mind firing up against with some of those lefties. Texas is very boomer bust to start this year, but in that ballpark, a lot of home run potential. Chavez a little bit home run prone to lefties since last year, 1.57 home runs per 9 in that span. So I think Odor's a logical pivot away from Villar, who I think is going to draw some higher ownership. Like I said, Dozier probably out of play tonight. Jose Altuve, I like him. I like him more in a stack than anything. As far as a one-off goes, it's a little bit tough. But that's about it for me. I mean, second base, I think those mid-range options, Adore and Villar, are not too bad. Because, I mean, looking at the pitching prices, I mean, you're not going to have to punt a ton, and catchers are cheap, so that opens up some salary as well. Third base, Justin Turner is the guy that I'll be looking at tonight. Like him here against Eflin. You look at Turner, 387 WOBA against righties going back to last year, 253 ISO. Very intriguing bet. A lot of upside in that ballpark. A lot of upside in that team with that RBI potential. Run totals up over 4.5. I like Turner quite a bit. A little bit of a discount from Arenado, who's a logical GPP play if you want to take the risk against Greinke on that good ballpark. As far as other guys go, looking down the list, Joey Gallo's a one-off shot you can take with that potential. I mean, we know the power and multi-home run upside he has. Given that Chavez is home run prone in that ballpark, I don't mind going that route. And he's a little bit on the cheaper side, so I mean, more on DraftKings. Obviously, FanDuel 3,700 is pretty damn pricey, so I don't mind going that route there tonight. Curious to see what the Brewers do with the lineup. I mean, Travis Shaw is a guy who might hit the pine tonight with the lefty-lefty matchup. So keep an eye on that. Shortstop, Corey Seager, Carlos Correa obviously coming as kind of the top options. I like Correa tonight. 370 WOBA off righties going back to last year, 181 ISO. Seager in a good spot for the mentions of with against Eflin. I think Chris Owings is a great kind of spin down off. I mean, the price has come up just because he's been so hot of late. But, I mean, with Anderson, the way he struggled, it's hard not to like Owings here tonight. Orlando Arcia's hitting the ball really well, still really cheap. I mean, 2,500 on FanDuel. Gets the lefty matchup there, 364 WOBA for him off lefty since last season. Given that he's just 2,500 on FanDuel, I think he's going to be a popular play in all formats. I'll definitely be going him to save some salary, but also to get some exposure to that Milwaukee team. So he kind of comes in as the first real great value on the slate. As far as the outfield goes, I mean, Ryan Braun's going to be a popular play against the lefty tonight. AJ Pollock, Yasmani Tomas for kind of reasons that are obvious. Chris Davis is probably going to draw a little bit of recency bias ownership going up against Musgrove with the home run potential there again. But as far as other guys go, I mean, Matt Kemp's the guy I'll take a look at as always. He's going to draw some low ownership. Domingo Santana I like quite a bit. I mean, they're all really in play. Andrew Tolles for the Dodgers, if you need a cheap leadoff bet, he hit leadoff last night. Bellinger took a back seat in the lineup. Shin-Soo Choo, Carlos Gomez. I mean, I like the Texas bats here on GPP formats. I think they're all very solid options. Just because you look at probably the Brewers and Diamondbacks are going to draw the heavier ownership. As far as other guys go, I mean, Nomar Mazara, I feel like might fly under the radar tonight, struggling a little bit. Still that big power upside out of him. A guy I might consider here in a GPP is Gregory Polanco. Tough ballpark, going to draw lower ownership against Straley, who I'm not particularly thrilled with. I mean, he's coming off a good start, but that's about it. I think he's an intriguing one-off option in that Pirates outfield. I think there's a lot of potential there, and the price really isn't too bad either. Given what the A's lineup is, I mean, we've seen Jeff Decker come into the lineup, Matt Joyce potentially. I think there's obviously some potential there. Hernan Perez is going to probably be a popular play tonight. Cheap on both sides, 359 WOBA off lefties, 229 ISO going back to last year. So definitely have some interest with those bats. So there are some cheap outfielders you can roll the dice with if you want to pay up on the infield. But also you have those top options like Pollock, Brown, Yasmani Tomas. You can even look at a Stanton tonight. I mean, given that Nova doesn't miss a ton of bats, I don't mind going after him a little bit here with just a one-off because I'm not particularly high on the rest of the bats there. Nova's been pretty strong since coming to Pittsburgh, so he would be the only one and should draw lower ownership as well. So that's going to wrap things up here. You can head over to DaveMasseyCafe.com, check out our rate tools and content.